Starting the broadcast. Okay, now it says I'm live. You pick? Yeah. How about now? Okay. All right. Well, thanks. I just wanted to make sure it was working. Okay, I'm going to start the broadcast. Thank you. Hello, my name is John Rosebush. I'm the founder and CEO of the Worldwide Development Corporation. I thought I'd go ahead and give a status update on where we're at on the project. I also thought I'd talk a little bit again about the problems that the world is facing. Let me start out by saying that I just completed for the last month. I had 3D drawings done over the summer and early fall, and I built a prototype over the last 6 months. I've got all the engineering. I had 2D drawings of this new energy invention. By the way, let me first start out by talking about the new energy invention. New energy invention I've created over the last 12 years has the ability to power this planet 1,000 times over. It has the ability to create 10 to even 20,000 terawatts of electricity. Today, our world only produces about 6.6 terawatts of electricity. The order of magnitude estimate on this new energy invention is $200 million. That is a fraction of the cost of any energy that's generated today. So let me go back to where I'm at right now. The new energy invention, I've completed a prototype. It took about 6 months to complete it. I had to go to about 7 or 8 different fab shops in order to keep it a secret. And then I went ahead and assembled it at my house here. It's a complete prototype. It has all the detail. It's just like as if it was deployed in the world. That's how detailed the new energy invention prototype is. Any engineer with a grain of salt would be able to validate the power projections of this new energy invention. The new energy invention creates about 1.5 billion foot-pounds of torque. Okay, and so then we take away about 50% of that for mechanical losses and for the unknowns. The difference is we've now solved all the unknowns. So what does that mean? That means about 750 million foot-pounds of torque equates to 1 gigawatt of electricity. So what we've done is we've went ahead and been very conservative, and we've said not only on the reduction of the amount of torque this new energy invention can create, but also on the amount of energy that it can produce. So what we've done is we're going ahead and we're saying that these are 1 gigawatt units. Now, we've designed multiple units. The largest one right now is 1 gigawatt. We wanted to be around 1 gigawatt because that is probably the most efficient way to distribute energy around the world. We believe that this new energy invention can be placed in way over 1 million places around the world. Now, this is 24/7 electricity, kinetic energy. It's based on movement. It's based on river flow, and then we turn around and we apply leverage to it, which is how we come up with this much torque. So that's what we're attempting to bring to the world. I have everything. Like I said, I built a prototype. I've got all 3D drawings. I've got all the engineering. What I've done is, over the last month, is I've made sure that the packet of the technical specifications and everything is completely is a finished product. We will be second to none when it comes to the engineering on this new energy invention. You know, I'm probably not the greatest person to market this, but I'm a very extremely honest individual. I'm 62 years old. I'm a grandfather of 5. I have 2 children. They both are educated. One is an engineer, mechanical and civil. The other one has an MBA. My son, that is an engineer, he's in Florida, and he's helped me validate the power projections. He doesn't know the details of the latest go around in this new energy invention. I've been working on this for 12 years. The first 8 years, I completely failed at producing energy from river flow, completely. And I literally gave up. And then I after about 6 months of still thinking about it and couldn't get it out of my head, I come up with a completely different approach. And when I reviewed the approach, I couldn't believe it. So I sent my son the details of it. And we both decided that we would look at the power projection separately. I was enough information where we could determine the power projections of this. So, maybe a couple weeks later, he gives me a call back and he says, Dad, and we went over the power projections that each one of us did. They were within 10% of one another, and they were an enormous amount of energy. I talk about failing on this energy invention for 8 years. Well, we were able to produce energy, of course, but it wasn't significant enough to go forward with it. It'd just be another energy invention based on river flow that we've seen out there, little turbines or some other ridiculous thing that produces a very little bit of energy. But this new energy invention is powerful. It's more than powerful. It's extremely powerful. I'm even going to say it is the crown jewel of energy generation of anything in the world. River flow is the most powerful energy source we have on the planet. It's dense. It's constant. It's 24/7 electricity, which is extremely important. And I'll go through a little bit of why that is so important today. And there's no other energy source that can do what a river flow can do. When we start looking at wind and solar, they're intermittent energy sources. What do I mean by intermittent energy sources? That means that they could stop for a minute, for a day, who knows? And also, they're very variable. If you ever looked at a solar chart, the energy that's produced from on a cloudy day, you would be shocked. And even, let's remember that solar is available maybe 12 hours a day, and it's probably only significant maybe 7 or 8 hours a day. So the idea that we're going to power this world based on solar, our wind, and even when wind blows, they have gusts and lows. The energy is so variable, it's very difficult to use, and wind is only available about 40% of the time on average. So the idea that our scientists and engineers are going forward with wind and solar is pretty ridiculous. It's like going back to, the Indians with rain dances for rain. The other thing you can't do with wind and solar is the infrastructure. You can't get rid of the old infrastructure because you can't count on it. And most of the infrastructure is carbon based, and those are limited resources. I look at things long term. How is mankind going to survive in the future for theoretically forever? Unless we just decide, well, maybe 5 generations out is long enough. No, we need to preserve those resources. The other thing about oil and gas too, but oil especially, it's what makes a modern society possible. Imagine a world without plastics. Just try to imagine it. I've created a website out there, and I'll go ahead and say it now, but I hope to, talk about it more often than just now. It's www.wdcpower.com. And within that website, I talk about a lot of these issues, and there's a Prezi presentation at the bottom of it. And go through that too. And I think you'll be surprised that, these are common sense things that I'm talking about. Without oil, we can't have plastics. And without plastics, we couldn't have a modern society. Now, how in the world is the world going to survive with 10 billion people, say, in the year 2050? Right now, we have 7.4. How's the world going to survive with 10 billion people without plastics? Now, I know plastics ain't great for food, but think about everything that's made out of plastics. Everything in your life. There isn't one thing that isn't made out of plastics that we can think of almost in this world today. The reason for that is we had an overabundance of oil, and we needed to make some, products, and we needed packaging. So what did the engineers do? They worked for years and years to come up with being able to create plastics. And when that evolved, it allowed our world to expand population-wise. Why? Because it was convenient. Go into a supermarket, look at the shelves. I don't think there's anything that isn't made out of plastics on the packaging side. Look at the TVs, look at your computers, look at the automobiles, look at offices. Everything around us is made out of plastic. Now, plastics comes from oil. 30% of the oil consumed in the United States is to make plastics. And not for energy. That would surprise a lot of people. So when we run out of oil, we don't just run out of an energy source, we run out of the ability to make a modern society. Because there is only one thing that can replace oil to make plastics: hemp. Now, I'd rather smoke that than I would to try to make plastics out of it. So plastics is critical. Oil is critical to our future. So not only is this new energy invention replace all need for oil completely, except for a few things, lubrication, different things, but 95% of oil will not be needed for energy. Now, right now, 90%, 98% of the oil consumed in this planet for transportation is for transportation. Okay, so think about that. 98% of our transportation fuels come from oil. Now, without oil, we have no transportation. This world is having major issues with replacing electricity with alternative fuel or alternative energy. Imagine we haven't even started to attempt to replace oil. So that's the difficulty that we're having. They brag about wind and solar like as if it's the answer. Well, even today, with all the hoopla, with everything that we're doing with alternative energy, wind and solar still make up about 3% of our energy on this planet. Now, and now they want to build batteries for it. Okay, they market wind and solar, especially wind, by capacity, but solar too. But wind is a perfect example. It would be like me trying to market vehicles by going down a mountain and idle the mileage. When they market it by capacity, a 2-megawatt wind turbine will be lucky to produce 1/10 of that. And then the energy is variable. And then they have to run it through batteries or cogeneration, and they try to widen the electrical grids in order to make it even useful. The only reason why today that wind is being worked on and sold like it is to make money. Because the idea that we're going to run our world on alternative energy come from wind or solar is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of. And yet we have experts out there continue to defend it. It doesn't make any sense to me, and it should not make any sense to anybody with any common sense. So what is our alternative? Well, we can continue down this path, which will eventually lead us to oil shortages, because oil is going to run out. We have a finite amount of carbon fuels. Now, I know that there's been all kinds of arguments about how long it's going to last, how much more oil we can find, and we can gamble on those things if that's what we choose to do. Doesn't make sense to, but we can. So right now, BP predicts we have 30 to 40 years of oil remaining. Now, we know we're going to find more oil. So maybe we have 70 or 80 years left, okay? That isn't very long. That's not very long. Now, one thing that they've been talking about is if the Arctic completely melts, and then we can go up to the Arctic and we can find more oil. And I'm sure we can. But the idea that we're going to let the Arctic Ocean melt to get more oil sounds a little bit insane. Plus, the ocean, then what are we going to do about the ocean? All that water is going to go somewhere, right? Our oceans are already rising. Miami's almost underground now, and there's other places around the world that are flooding all the time, etc. It doesn't make any sense. But right now, that we see the major oil companies, they're getting all the money, they're doing these things. It doesn't make sense. So what's left? I mean, what are we going to do? Well, this new energy invention I've created has the ability to solve our energy problems theoretically forever. So what have I done? For about a month, I talked with one of the senior vice presidents of GE. And we talked back and forth. Heck, we talked about our grandkids. We talked about this energy invention. I thought for sure that GE was going to work with me. And guess what? A month later, he sends me to, he gets me in contact with the leading attorney for all of GE. So I talked with him, and they turned me down. Why do they turn me down? Because they want to run the project. They want the invention for themselves. Okay? And because I asked for no money, there was no money involved. It was just conversations back and forth for a month, emails. I mean, I thought for sure, well, GE was going to assist me in bringing this new energy invention to the world. No. Today, I'm talking with one of the largest law firms in the United States. And they haven't got back with me yet. I'm hoping, like ever, that they do come back and we do get to work together on this project. I've also talked, at least been in contact with Siemens on back and forth. But, you know, GE and Siemens make wind turbines. It's very difficult for them to think of, well, will this new energy invention replace all that? But they need to think bigger than themselves. And that's part of my model, my thought pattern on the Worldwide Development Corporation. We need to think bigger than ourselves. You know, mankind wants to survive. That should be our main priority, is for mankind to survive long term. You know, my goal is to help the poor and rebuild a middle class around the world, to make it a fair and balanced world. This is not about greed to me. You know, I don't have a lot of money. And I funded all this for the last 12 years. Imagine, I'm an educated man, 62 years old. I worked for a major oil company, Marathon Oil Company, for 26 years. I retired at 50, long before my ability to make a lot of money, long before. I could have continued working, but instead I decided to work on alternative energy. Why? Because the world's running out of oil. Anybody that's been around the oil business knows that it's coming. Regardless about the arguments about peak production and everything else, we know it's coming. You know, they're mining the oil sands up in Canada. Okay? They're mining them with loaders. Now, we have to get desperate to start mining oil that is really pretty dirty oil. And refine it twice. Really, we refine it twice. First, we have to separate the oil from the sand. Then we have to, and it's full of toxics and carbon and everything else. Then we got to refine it again so we can use it. And yet we're that desperate to do that. That's how desperate we've become. You know, Shell not that long ago wanted to go up to the Arctic and drill. Okay. And, you know, there's big arguments about and they tried to stop them and all kinds of things. Well, again, that's desperation. The easy oil in this world is gone. You know, our world consumes 32 billion barrels of oil every year. Now, the North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana oil shale find that everybody has been talking about in the United States and so on, right? It's about let's say 7.5 to 9 billion barrels of oil. Sounds like a lot of oil, right? Well, at a yearly world consumption rate of 32 billion barrels, it's less than a 4-month world oil supply. So that means the world would have to find one of them every 3 months to keep up with demand. So that's how little that matters. It makes zero difference how much oil we find. We cannot drill our way out of this problem. And you know, I'd like to see humanity survive for more than, say, 50, 80, 100 years. And, you know, once we begin to run out of oil, can you imagine the conflicts that are going to happen around the world trying to protect the oil for governments? And the governments are not going to allow all the oil to be consumed and then go, oh, guess what? There's no more oil. No, they're going to cut off the public way ahead of time. Way ahead of time. And this is not a conspiracy. It's going to happen. It may not happen in my lifetime, but it'll definitely happen in my children's lifetime. And my grandkids will face a world that they won't even know. That's how serious this is. This is not me trying to sell a product. This is not me trying to sell anything. This is me trying to bring the world together for humanity's sake to actually create a world where it is sustainable. Now, this broadcast is to talk about this new energy invention and the issues that the world is facing. So let's take a look at real close at all the issues the world is facing. First thing is we're running out of fossil fuels. And if we're not, we're still consuming them at an unbelievable rate, a rate we've never seen before on this planet. 32 billion barrels of oil consumed every year is just completely enormous. Now, I know the oil companies, right now the prices are down, but they won't be that much longer. I know they're trying to raise them up. They just, because of fracking, which is, again, a very serious issue that we're facing in this world, that we're allowing fracking to go on. They've gotten desperate. When I worked for the oil companies not that many years ago, oil and water separation was a very big deal. Today, fracking has great potential to harm aquifers all over the world, and yet we're allowing it. That's why people around the world have tried to stop it. The CEO, Rex Tillerson, that we know about, when he was CEO of ExxonMobil, they tried to frack in New York, and he went to court to stop it in his backyard. Yet ExxonMobil is fracking in Pennsylvania hugely. It doesn't make any sense what's going on. Fracking is an extremely dangerous thing, and yet, guess what? We can get more oil out of the ground by putting a lot of pressure on the ground and possibly cracking that cracks where the oil leaks into those reservoirs and natural gas. And they're doing it close to the Great Lakes. The Great Lakes is, I don't know, 20% of the world's fresh water. Why in the world are we taking these chances when it's not needed? Again, this new energy invention would solve all that. They would no need for fracking whatsoever. And, I didn't ask GE for any money, and I wouldn't ask Siemens for any money. I need, they are, I guess, trusted around the world. I don't know why, because the new energy invention I created is leap years ahead of any technology when it comes to energy in the world today, by a long shot. There's nothing that even compares. I mean, when I say I can generate 20,000 terawatts of electricity, and the world today produces 6.6 terawatts of electricity, that is a statement. I mean, that is not only a statement, that's a bold statement. And I'm willing to back that up. I have no issues with, no technical issues whatsoever. None. I have zero technical issues. The problems I got are greed, and people don't believe. Well, not asking for money should wake some of these people up. I continue going through social media and broadcasting to get the people behind me. This is your world too. This is your grandkids. This is it's ridiculous for the world not to be standing up and saying, hey, this man says he can do what he can do. I'm very honest. I can tell you right now, I'm a veteran. I'm college educated. I finished college in 3 years with a very, very high grade point. I worked as a senior analyst for Marathon Oil Company in their corporate office for 26 years. I got no reason to lie to anybody. There's nothing I'm hiding. The only thing I'm not doing is showing right now. And why am I not showing? Because right now, all the world is interested in is either taking this energy invention, hiding this energy invention, or running from it scared. And I do not understand any of the fear. I'm here to bring it to the world in such a way that will create a fair, balanced, and sustainable planet for humanity. But I did it a lot for my grandkids. And my path going forward is for my grandkids and all kids and young people and future generations around the world. It's not limited to my grandkids. It's for all of you. It's for all the poor countries. This new energy invention will allow poor countries to get all the energy they could ever want without consuming resources. That's the key, except for the few resources to build the infrastructure. But other than that, it's free. It's almost free energy. I believe we can create a gigawatt of electricity 24/7 for $200 million. That is such a tiny fraction of any energy generated today. It doesn't make we will look back and say, why in the world were we using carbon resources? The energy will be almost free over time. We think we can generate, you ready? Hydrogen, our electricity, our compressed air to power land transportation for less than 30 cents a gallon equivalent. without any price fluctuations. Now imagine what that would do for land transportation around the world. It would create a world so dynamic, so flexible. So many people could. The cost would be nothing for people. That's one example. We can also power desalination plants around the world. You know why they don't have a lot of desalination plants around the world? Cost of energy. And it consumes a lot of energy. Now imagine being able to power desalination plants cheap. Oh, just almost for free. That would solve China's water problems, India's water problems, Africa's water problems. And believe it or not, England is talking about maybe having water problems in the future. Even England, California, when they had water problems, there would be no issues nowhere. Matter of fact, we would generate so much fresh water, we could, the possibilities would be limitless around the world. Matter of fact, so many possibilities. We would no longer be concentrating on how to generate energy. We would be concentrating on how we can use energy for the benefit of mankind all around the world. Poor countries, third world countries, where their resources haven't been exploited. This will be so big for you because you know what? You can modernize your world in a real 21st century way. You know, China has been using the 20th century model to modernize their world. You know, that's why, you know, you see the traffic jams where they can't even move because the vehicles are clogging everything up. Same with India. Well, India is just trying to get by because it's got so many people. But China has had a plan to follow the 20th century United States plan, which is insane. You know, China and India have so many people. I mean, they make up 40% of the world's population. They're cooking on coal. So, you know, in a lot of places, the smog is so heavy in those countries, they're using medical masks. I'm trying to solve their problems. And yet, you know what? Now I've had a lot of people from China contacted me, but really what China wants is it for free. And India, I've had a lot of people from India contacted me. Matter of fact, people have written Mr. Modi, quite a few people, okay? And yet India hasn't stepped forward, neither has China. Maybe they just think their people should be breathing smog. It doesn't have to be. I have the ability to solve that problem. You know, if the China leaders actually knew, they could have everything they have today and much, much, much more without any smog, a completely clean environment. You know, they're destroying even their agricultural land. It's insane. And China is too, regardless if it's being reported in China or not. All that smog and all those particulates coming out of those smokestacks is destroying their agricultural land. And they can't even see in a lot of days. You know, they're wanting to install solar. Well, hell, the sun can't even shine to the solar panels they have unless they put it out in you know, a long ways away from the cities and the factories. And they're polluting the water so bad. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I could show China how they could create almost a utopia environment, and India. Now, that sounds a little crazy with that many people, but you know what? If you have almost unlimited, abundant, clean energy, you can do a lot. It solves almost all problems that you have. Clean energy is the one thing that is the most important thing around the world. Everything evolves around it. Can't have a modern society without it. 7.4 billion people are struggling today because we can't generate enough energy. Imagine when we get 10 billion people. I mean, things don't make any sense. Now, the next thing is, not only do I need to create all the oil, all the energy that the world needs, but we also need to think about future generations. We need to be responsible. Everybody's kind of turning to being a capitalist society. Well, what we need to be able to do is recycle. Not only do we need to replace the oil that we're consuming, we need to recycle plastics so we don't consume the rest of it. 30% of the oil consumed in the United States is make plastics. We need to stop that. We need to recycle plastics. We need to recycle everything so we can use it over and over and over again. So we keep that virgin oil for future generations. And natural gas, we need to eliminate that wherever we can. You know, some of the large cities, they you know, have big boilers and they produce, you know, hot water for, you know, many different buildings within big cities. We could power them by hydrogen. You know, if we have electric coming to where those boilers are, okay, we could produce hydrogen right at that time where we need it. So we don't have to store it. And then we can power those boilers with hydrogen. That means we don't need natural gas for all that. So we don't need natural gas to generate electricity. We don't need natural gas to, you know, big users of natural gas in some of these larger cities. We can eliminate a great deal of the natural gas. Now, I know natural gas can be consumed for a long time because we don't want to replace all the furnaces in local homes in the modern countries. But you know what? We can still reduce the amount that we need tremendously, and we can stop the fracking. And so we can save our water. You know, if they destroy our water, imagine what that's going to do to the world. Well, we're now going to start to have energy shortages, and we don't have good water. You know, many parts of the world don't have good water. Where we do have it, we'd like to keep it. You know, people would like to keep that. So what do I need? I need the world to stand up. Now let's talk about a few other problems that we have. We're overfishing. And so, you know, that's not a very good thing. But on top of it, because we're putting so much carbon in the oceans, we're bleaching out all our reefs. And what are the reefs? The marine reefs are what make the ability to have that much fish in the world. So we're destroying their homes. And then on top of it, even worse yet, we're treating our oceans like they're dumps. Hell, in the Pacific Ocean, it looks like a damn trash pile. And what do we have? We have a couple children in England, young people, I call them children, they're in their 20s trying to solve the problem because the world is so greedy, it don't want to spend the money to solve the problem. What are we doing? I mean, is this really the kind of world that we want to live in? Does money mean that much? You know, we could take all the wealthy people and put them on a few islands, say Hawaii somewhere, and build them all mansions, and we can cut down a few trees and print money and dump truckloads of money in their driveways to make them feel better. But the rest of the world, we need to wake up. We need to have a society that is built for 7.4 billion people, not the precious few, not the 10%. You know, and everybody in the United States gaming the system. My God, the game in the system, avoiding taxes, avoiding this, avoiding their responsibilities, and where has it got us? 10% of the people, 90% of the wealth. Not only in the United States, but around the world. Europe, same way. Hell, that's like third world countries. Can't you people understand what you're doing? You're destroying the civilization. What? United States, 20-some billion dollars in debt. Hell, Europe's just as bad. And you think this is going to continue, and you think it's good that what you're doing is really living in a mansion that important. You know, actors, you know, all of them are now worth 50, 60, $100 million. It's ridiculous. You know, talk show hosts, everybody. You are gaming the system. It's not going to work. Everybody can't game the system. The system is no longer valid. And it's not just here, it's all around the world. We need to wake up as a society. You know, you people ain't bad, but you know what? Y'all can't be doing this. Normal people. You know who my heroes are? The people that go to work every day and don't make much money and don't have much hope, but continue working every day. Those are my heroes. Are the poor people that live day to day, literally sometimes live day to day to eat. You know, those are the people. We want them to participate in humanity. You know, our actual humanity, be able to live, have hope, have a chance for prosperity. Work hard and have a chance for prosperity. Not give away to everything, but at least there's something there. That's what we're after. That's what I'm after. And if I can get a small piece of that there, then what I'm doing right now is worthwhile. I mean, that's my goal. And if you look at the Worldwide Development Corporation, or www.wdcpower.com, you'll see I lay that out there. It's all laid out. And someone says, well, is it legal or not legal? Who cares? If the world wants to join together to create a world fit for humanity, something where we live up to our expectations of humanity's spirit, then they need to come on board. Now, I don't know how much longer this is going to take, but I'm willing to wait. And if the people in China and India want to breathe, you know, air so bad that, you know, it's killing them, then let them do it. You know, again, because I'm not greedy and I'm not trying to become some gigantic billionaire, I'm willing to wait. You know, I look at Bill Gates, you know, people call me up and say, hey, why don't you contact Bill Gates or, you know, one of the more wealthier people? For what? He knows nothing about energy. What? Because he's got money? So what? So what? You know, one of my big deals is knowledge worth more than money? Or money worth more than knowledge? Well, in today's world, it seems like money's worth more than knowledge, but in reality, it's not. You know, I have a new energy invention that's priceless. This new energy invention is worth more than all the money in the world, trillions of dollars, trillions, heck, all the world, because it's a way for mankind to have a sustainable future, theoretically forever. That's what I've invented. Now I'm trying to bring the world along to say, hey, let's do this in such a way where we live up to humanity's expectations. You know, I lay out there all kinds of reasons why it's, you know, trying to convince people. Well, people should be convinced. I'm not asking for money. I've never asked for money from anybody. I've completely funded this entire 12-year venture, completely. And I'm still funding it. There's no money that hasn't been paid back or has been borrowed from someone to do this. I've worked on this whole thing, all the 3D drawings, all the prototype, all the 8 years of failures, everything that I've done, I've paid for. And I don't have a lot of money left, and I don't really care. If I didn't make a penny on this, if it did exactly what I want it to do, which is help the poor people around the world and rebuild a middle class, I would be happy. That's my motivation, is to create a better world. That should be a great motivation. I should be bringing on millions of people across the world. This video should bring in a billion people around the world saying, hey, join in with this guy. You know, even the validation of this new energy, but I've laid out the engineering, the prototype, and everything so well that it would take an engineer worth his weight one day to validate the power projections of this new energy invention. That's how powerful it is. And that's how easy laid out it is. Easy. Any just general engineer would go, wow, here are power projections. And they would match up with what I'm saying. I've actually had to downplay the distribution capabilities of this new energy invention just to make it believable. Just so I can have a normal conversation. I've had to downplay it. This is not 21st century technology. This is 22nd century technology. I look at the engineers right now that are promoting wind, solar, wave, ocean current, you know, et cetera, like they're idiots. But, you know, I don't want to call them idiots because they're very smart. Engineers are extremely smart. I worked with 25 of them for about 8 years. Yeah, on creating energy from river flow. Engineers are extremely smart. The problem is they have a mindset that they're smarter than everybody else. And on top of that, you know, anytime you come up with an idea, they throw it into some category, that some theory or some concept that they've come up with, and says, well, you can't do that because it fits into this category. So the brainstorming is, they have no ability to brainstorm, none. And so what happens is they're locked into certain things and they continue working, just like what I did for 8 years on this, on generating energy from river flow. Worked on 8 years over and over, tried different things. My gosh, you know, they talk about turbines and then things that look like witches' hats to get rid of the ebb factor. What is the ebb factor? A lot of engineers don't know what it is. Oh boy. The ebb factor is actually the backwash behind something in a river. So if you notice, when you put something in a river, the force is just very, very strong, but then it goes away real fast as soon as the water surrounds an object. That's the ebb factor. So when you learn, when you do something and you solve the ebb factor, and then you apply leverage to it, you get what I've come up with. Now, how do you solve the ebb factor? That is the trick. That's what 8 years of beating my head up against the wall over and over and over again resulted in. Then when I solved the ebb factor, and then I was able to easily apply leverage, and then I come up with a huge amount of energy. You know, right now we talk about a gigawatt of electricity. Well, I have the ability to put these units back to back to back to back, where I could create a terawatt of electricity in one location. A terawatt. That's, United States produces just a little over a terawatt. That means I could power this entire country in one location if I wanted to. Wouldn't make any sense. That's why we divided it up in units. That's why we, and then what I do again, I had to come up with how can we distribute it? Okay, which means the capabilities of it. So then that took me a couple more transformations to figure that out. So once I was able to widely distribute this, and we come up with 1 gigawatt units, they become actually the ability, just to interrupt here a second, Russia, I could show Russia how to generate 1,000 terawatts of electricity if I wanted to. Russia, up in the cold climate. Now, how can that be? Because this new energy invention has the ability to be distributed in cold weather. Really, cold weather. Well, heck, that solves everything. Because at one time, all I could do was the middle of the world. Now I can power Russia. You got to be kidding me. No, this new energy invention will work the same as in Russia as it does in, the middle part of the world. So now I don't have to tell Russia, oh boy, it works for a lot of the world, but it doesn't work for you. Now it works for them. Now, Russia and the United States, oh boy. Well, I don't look at it that way. Of course, I'm not going to work with Russia right now because of the things going on. But you know what? I want Russia to benefit from it because I don't really care what country I'm from. This is about humanity. This is about saving humanity. I care just as much about the people in Africa or South America as I do United States or Europe or China or India. I don't really care. This is humanity. This is a project for the world. This is a project to create a sustainable planet for humanity. And this is a project about helping poor people and rebuild a middle class around the world where we have a fair, balanced world where there's a chance for hope and prosperity for everybody. Everybody on the planet. The entire planet will benefit. Now we're going to have to get rid of greed because I'm not going to allow one company or a few companies to exploit this. And that's why I'm out here again on social media. That's why I'm talking to the people out here. There's a reason for that. I don't want it exploited. I don't care if I become a billionaire out of it, but I don't really care to make a whole bunch of other people a billionaire. It just is not in me. I've had opportunity, quite a few, to become rich already out of this. But that means I would have to kind of, once I go down that route, instead of worrying about the people around the world, where's it end up at? Now, I've got everything here. Actually, I don't. They're in storage facilities under other people's names, et cetera, because I don't want, because I fear. I've also been kind of threatened and everything else on this project. I've also been deceived, lied to, even within my own organization. Just recently, I had to eliminate some people because of lying and trying to steal it in essence. In other words, trying to just ridiculous things. And I've had that done before on me. So the idea that I'm protecting this, you doggone right, I'm protecting it until the world can come together in such a way that it benefits everybody. Now, the wealthy countries are still going to remain wealthy. Come on. I lay out in www.wcpower.com exactly the benefits and I've tried to create a win-win-win situation for everybody on the planet. They're going to have to give, some people in some companies are going to have to, in some countries are going to have to give up some things, but they also have huge benefits. And one of the keys is I want to collect royalties on this. Okay. And then I want those royalties to help poor countries and rebuild a middle class. Okay. And so I want to collect 10% royalty. Okay. Well, you say, well, gosh, where's that money going to go? It ain't going to go to me. It's going to go to help poor countries around the world and rebuild a middle class. And if you go out to, again, www.wcpower.com, you'll see exactly what I have in mind. That's, the key is that we create a healthy world. Elon Musk, you know, everybody thinks of, oh boy, and I don't want to pick on him specifically. Solar City. Well, solar is a joke when it comes to generating energy. Electric cars have been developed years ago. Now he's made them more modern and he's done good things. The SpaceX program that he's got. Okay, SpaceX, you know, they landed a rocket. That's all great. And he wants to go to Mars. Well, I think he should go to Mars, but I'm not so sure the rest of us should. A failure like that would set back the space program for years and years, even though it's already been set back. What we need to do is start, I call it, come up with WASA, which is, you know, instead of NASA, WASA, which means a world space program, where we can, you know, maybe buy some land over in Western Africa because they're poor, and then, you know, huge amount of acreage, and then start doing real research on space technology. You know, magnetic drive, plasma energy, 360 water energy, you know, whatever we can come up with, and do real exploration on abilities to travel to space. So when we do go to space, we go with sound principles, and we bring people home, and the space program actually moves forward. Now, I don't want to pick on Elon Musk. I could less care, but now he's got batteries, right? Now, you know, the last thing we need to attempt to do is power this world by batteries. He's not a visionary like you think. You know, his vacuum tube idea came from bank tellers. You know, the people just chase things because they want to chase things. Doesn't make any sense. You know, I talked about recycling earlier. Well, let me tell you a little more about the recycling. If we recycle everything on the planet, I mean everything, nothing goes to dumps no more, then we can preserve our resources. You know, the people that produce the product, whatever it is, and going to sell it, say China wants to sell it to the United States, well, then China pays a recycling fee for the United States at their currency rate. So that way it can be recycled in the United States and it gets paid for. That's a good way to pay for recycling. And if we set up recycle centers all around the world, we can preserve oil for millions of years instead of, you know, say 1,000 years or 2,000 years with this new energy invention. We then have a truly sustainable world. You know, not just one that goes, well, I'm a little more sustainable. You know, that's what we keep talking about, natural gases, you know, the in-between, in-between type thing. It's ridiculous. I've come up with a new invention that truly that has the capability to theoretically last forever. Now, that's sustainability. You know, sustainability isn't something in between. Sustainability either says you can do something forever or you can't. There's nothing. You know, this idea that, you know, this in-between stuff doesn't make any sense. Now, this new energy invention is real. There's no, you know, I'm surely not, there's no reason to lie. I mean, you know, I'm putting on this broadcast, and I hope to speak around the world here shortly and start talking about the idea that we create a sustainable planet. The idea that poor Africa countries no longer are poor. No more poor. South America, no more poor. No more third world countries. No. You know, scientists believe, well, we would need 8 planets if everybody wanted to live like the people in the United States. That's not true. With this new energy invention, that solves one very, very large issue. Desalination of water solves another very, very large issue. Vertical farming helps with that. You know, we can create a world that can support 10 billion people, 20 billion people, living like we do in the United States if we use our intelligence and we're smart about it and we do the right things. There is no reason whatsoever we have this many poor people on the planet, this many people going hungry. We can do better. You know, dinosaurs made it for over an hour on the Earth time clock. We've made it a little over a minute. Little over a minute. Imagine 1 minute. Now we can do better. This idea of greed, this idea of wars going on all over, much of it to fight over resources. Resources we don't need. I can show the world how to eliminate all the reason for those wars. Eliminate it. No more wars over oil. Now, does that mean the Middle East is now, oh boy, you know, has nothing? No, oil still is important to make products. They still have a very valuable resource. But you know what? Third world countries do too. Many third world countries still have lots of minerals, and if they haven't exploited their natural resources, they're extremely important. The modern civilizations have already exploited their resources, but they have modern civilizations and they can help lead the rest of the world out of it. You know, Australia hurting, right? Hurting for energy. So what have they done? They went out and they actually are creating this huge 100 million megawatt battery. For what reason? It's not going to work. You know, if the solar and wind ain't working, right? If the wind ain't blowing, and by God, it's a cloudy week, what the hell are they going to do with that battery? And the cost of it's ridiculous. And yet that's what they're doing. Puerto Rico has, you know, leaders from Puerto Rico has contacted me. I thought I was going to head down there and put a presentation on for them. Instead, they haven't got back with me yet. And yet, you know, Elon Musk is talking about Solar City down there. Boy, that's a good way to screw up that island. I mean, that you talk about screwing up an island. Now, you know, there's a reason why solar has not been a standalone type of energy source. You know, if we depended on solar and wind, we didn't have the utility companies. So now we don't have any sun shining for a while, and we don't have any wind blowing, and so now there's no energy in the household. So then what is the mom going to tell the kids? Well, I planned a great dinner, but we ran out of energy. The battery went dead, and there was no other energy, and all the food spoiled. You know, we have freezers. You know, that's just a small part of what we need constant energy for. Everything else we need too. The idea that we're going to have blackouts and run out of energy back and forth because we're counting on intermittent energy sources is like insane. Our world doesn't operate like that. Yet, you know what? You notice there's nothing that's independent. Everything still has utilities. You know, my God, Germany and Europe and stuff are paying coal companies and utility companies a lot of money to be on standby sometimes when they run out of electricity. Not sometimes, most of the time when they run out of electricity. So now, what do they want to do? You ready for this? They install wind and solar. It's complete chaos in Germany and around Europe. You know, they may try to hide it, and they talk about wind capacity, and they market this stuff by wind. It doesn't make any sense, and they know it. You know, Siemens, an engineer from Siemens, was talking about it one day on a webcast that I listened to, and then they deleted the webcast because they didn't want that to be out there, because Siemens making a lot of money and Germany's backing it. And I think it's wonderful that Europe has been trying to get off fossil fuels and do alternative energy, but don't hide things. And then, you know, and you know why they're doing it, because Russia is, you know, blackmailing them with natural gas, which, you know, is insane again. But these are the types of things going on in the world. So you know, what are they going to now have? Wind and solar and batteries and cogeneration, and then pay the utility company? How the utility company is going to stay in business if they actually do install enough to actually make a difference with alternative energy, and then the utilities got to stay in business and supply energy when half the time? How are they going to stay in business? And how much cost? It's already the highest electricity rates in the world, and yet this is going on, and yet it's being hidden from the world because the companies want to make money and the countries are embarrassed, and so the whole thing's being hidden. I mean, it's insane what's going on. And France, they're running into the same issues. Australia, you know, they installed 100 megawatt battery, and now they said they need 8 more to stabilize because of wind and solar, right? So they're going to run. I guess they want to run half their country or their entire country off batteries. Really, that's the way we're going to head in this world? And then ignore me because they're afraid, because nobody's asked for money. So what? Fear? I'm scared. I don't know what will happen in the future. I may lose all my money. My God, oh mercy. Mankind's survival is dependent on this. What the hell kind of thought pattern or even idea that their little profits mean more than the sustainability of the human race? I don't care if they're trillionaires. I don't care if they're, you know, Apple. You know, again, You know, Apple exploiting Chinese labor, that's, you know, all good, and they're hiding the taxes and everything else. But you know what? It's phones, for Christ's sake. It's phones. ExxonMobil, you know, we see what the President of the United States has done to Rex Tillerson. I mean, it's horrible, the types of greed that's going on around the world. For what? To make a few $100 million or make $1 billion, or, you know, really, really, the future of our grandchildren and the human race is worth more than, you know, concerned about making a few bucks. I mean, what the hell's money? The U.S. currency is no more than monopoly money now. $21 trillion in debt. Who's going to pay that back? And Europe, same way. You know, it's just printed money of craziness stuff. Hell, we were $2 trillion in debt during the Clinton years. And you know, I'm not bragging up Clinton, because Clinton let the banks in the stock market, which had now the stock market's nothing more than a casino. Why? Because they can't lose money. Jamie Dimon, what, a few years back, lost $5 billion. He had to go in front of Congress to tell him why. Well, that's what happens in the stock market. So now, the banks had to figure out a way not to lose money. That's why the stock market don't go down. Well, we couldn't afford our debt. So New York Stock Exchange just keeps going up, 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 up and away. It can never go down. How can it go down? Interest rates go up. We can't afford the debt. U.S. Bank, the United States goes bankrupt. United States goes bankrupt. World goes bankrupt. Not that the world shouldn't be bankrupt already. The euro, a joke. So much currency out there. Heck, it's like playing with monopoly money again. And the third world countries, hell, only the top few people are wealthy. Everybody else is poor. Slave labor in a lot of countries. I mean, there's so many issues that if we went through them all, it would be insane what's going on. We have the ability to create I'm telling you what, a world that you almost would think would be utopia. Abundant energy everywhere. Cheap, cheap, cheap. Transportation. Cheap, cheap, cheap. Now, transportation fuels. Let's talk about them a little bit. You know, I could show the world how to create hydrogen right at the pumps, right? As they're fueling the vehicles. No storage. Okay? Now, everybody wants to talk about hydrogen fuel cell because it's a little more efficient than hydrogen combustible. The hell with efficiency. I'll show the world how to create unlimited energy cheap. What we're concerned about is sustainability. So we have what? These millions and millions and 100 million vehicles out there in the world. We can convert them to hydrogen combustible engines, just like natural gas. And then power them, HH2. Power these vehicles. Not have to build new ones, but then in the future build new ones. But right now we could actually convert. So we can create a conversion plan with this new energy invention and our technology to convert our planet in the next 10, 15 years completely off oil, except for air travel. Air travel, we're going to have an issue with. And if we build recyclable centers, we could completely reduce the amount of oil use tremendously. And if we have anything whatsoever on our agenda, it should be to create air travel with an alternative fuel. Now, UCLA has come out with the idea that they can generate a fuel, a liquid fuel, from hydrogen, electricity, and water. Now, if that's true, if they actually can, that should be one of the main researches around the world, because that would cover airline travel. That would completely eliminate almost all needs for oil except for maybe lubricants. And the idea that we're going to use biofuels, really? We're going to grow food to make energy when people are starving in this world. It doesn't make any sense. Now, biomass. That was a terminology it took me until about a year ago to even know what the heck they were talking about. I thought they were talking about burning shit. No, they're not. They're deforesting to make wood chips to power utility plants. So now the amount of energy they get from this biomass, as they talk about, we would have to cut down every tree in the United States to power the United States for 1 year. That's how inefficient how ridiculous. It's the most inefficient power source here in the world. But if you look at Europe, hell, they're importing all kinds of biomass chips, right? Then the next crazy thing, let me just go through everything so you understand the truth, because this broadcast is about the truth. So now, I was contacted not that long ago about, this company that's burning trash to make energy. And they think that's a big breakthrough, right? Well, hell, most of the trash is made up of plastics, comes from oil-based. It should be able to burn and create, burn a tire. The idea that they want to burn trash, we should be recycling that trash. So then when I got done listening to the pitch and everything, I thought, you got to be kidding me. Again, the world is just whatever some goofy guy that doesn't know anything about, understand anything about sustainability or anything else, might be a nice guy and smart, but the idea that the world allows this type of stuff to go on. The scientists and engineers have no power. They just work for money. It must be, because they're not making sense on so many things that are against sustainability of the human race. All they want to do is make money. I mean, if you're willing to pay some scientist or engineer to do something, they just do it. They don't care. And their voice ain't heard. Voice is shut out. Doesn't make sense. We need to get on track. We need to bring this world to a place to where, things that are important to humanity come true. I should have 1 billion people following me after this broadcast, but I'll be lucky that, someone says, well, I don't know if I believe you. Believe me for what? Well, am I trying to take something from you? I'm trying to help the young people. There was a movement of young people that was going to work with me. And then they turned on me. They decided, well, if they couldn't be heroes, then they weren't going to do anything. And I thought, really? I'm not trying to be a hero, but you're not going to become one neither. I was looking for leadership from these young people to bring in millions and millions of young people around the world. That's why I went with them to work with them on social media, because I thought, boy, these young kids, they're leaders of young people. They really, really can step up. They can step up. They can help bring young people from around the world something that will save the world, something meaningful in their life, instead of just selling something on the internet or some crazy thing. What a lot of people don't realize is, I've got a pretty long track record, right? Between the military and college in 3 years and 25, 26 year career in an oil company and just friends I've made along the way. I've made a lot of friends. Now, you don't stay in contact with them, but I have a huge amount of friends. I played sports in my life. I've had a great life. I've enjoyed everything, including the military for 3 years, including college, including a career. And by the way, I'm trying to replace oil. But you know what? As far as I'm concerned, oil companies have done wonderful for this world. I'm not against them. I just think their time has come and gone. Without oil companies, we would have never been where we're at today. Oil companies have done not only a great thing, it's been a blessing to have them and for the oil that they've created. But now it's time to go away. It's time to change. Now, change is difficult for people. We all know that. It's hard to change your daily routine, let alone change your entire life or change all our priorities from one thing to another. But if we want a sustainable planet where humanity actually has an opportunity to survive forever, we're going to have to. We all know it. I mean, you can say, well, the guy don't know what he's talking about, but we know it's true. Our world is on a demolition course for destruction of humanity completely. And by the way, once we start to run out of oil, there's going to be, hell, more than likely nuclear wars over resources and stuff. That will destroy humanity. What? Maybe we got a few bunkers and we want to live like friggin' monkeys for 1,000 years or something. I mean, things don't make any sense. One of the big things that's happened to me in my life, which I'm so proud of, my daughter hooked up with a black guy. And she had children, 3 of them, 3 little grandkids that are half black and half white. They taught me the meaning of life. They taught me that race means so little, actually means nothing in life. I learned lessons from little kids, and they've been the most wonderful lessons in my life. And I love them and cherish them with everything I have. And they made me colorblind completely. At this point, I don't care if you're green, yellow, red, black, or white. You're humans and you're people. And so I care just as much about the people in Africa as I do the people in Europe, where my dad's ancestries came from, which was France. And South America, and Mexicans and white people and people all across the world I care about. This new energy invention is meant for humanity. I'm very proud to be a grandfather for those 3 children. They're probably, at this point, the most important things in my life. And I want to see them have a future that is so awesome that they can't believe it's possible. And not only them, but young kids from around the world. I remember what it was like to have a first girlfriend, to be married, to have your first child. Those are the things that are important to all of us, and yet we forget. We get all trapped up with this greed. I see people that's willing to kill their grandmother for money. And then I see political people that are everything has to be a political party. I could less care about any of the political parties. I do care about this guy running for Senate that's pedophilia should not be in there. And I don't want to talk politics here, but he should not be in there. Only because of morality, not because of politics. I could less care. I care about your children, your grandchildren, the future of humanity. Sounds a little crazy because it sounds like we all should be about business. Oh boy, does Mr. Rosebush act like a professional? Hell yeah, I can. I can also act like a human being. I can also care about you. Even when you don't, it looks like. People of this world need to wake up. We are really headed for a crisis that will make anything that we saw in this world look miniature. The first countries that start to run out of energy, which I don't think is in a too distant future, will create a crack in everything that we know in this world. We continue talking about issues. We got the Arctic thawing out and releasing methane gas. Well, I don't know how many people know about methane gas. Well, it's 98% worse than carbon dioxide for the ozone. So that's going to, help destroy climate change. But climate change, we continue to hear how big of an issue it is. It would be nothing compared to running out of oil. Oil would make climate change seem like nothing. We run out of oil. We run, at this point, if we run out of oil, it would destroy this planet. And even after this point, if we don't start recycling, we can't make plastics. Imagine a world without plastics. You can't. I also, that's part of that website in that presentation. Imagine a world without plastics and energy with 10 billion people. Now, you can't imagine that because it would be impossible. That's where we're headed, folks. Now, I'm going to plead to you that you wake up. I don't need to raise money. I've had offers of billions and billions of dollars that I could raise, and I've turned it all down. I don't care. What I need is for the world leaders, for you to contact your world leaders, to have them wake up. Wake up. Contact your world leaders. Get them to understand how important this topic is and how important this new energy invention is. And tell them, hey, Why don't you contact this guy? Why don't the world get together? You know, I've even contacted the United Nations. I've had the United Nations contact me, including the top people in the United Nations. But again, a little fearful, and they call it skeptical. Well, they know it's not skeptical. You know, even like the law firm I was telling you about recently, I met with them for an hour. I talked with them. They were very believable. But they said they don't know if they can get the other partners to match up, because this is an extremely large law firm, extremely, one of the top law firms in the world. And I thought, really? Not asking for money? Well, they were worried about a little bit of paperwork for partnership. I thought, oh my God, in comparison to what I've done, that would mean simply nothing. Absolutely nothing. But, you know, people have to view things the way they view things. They also, I'm sure, were worried about conflicts of interest with their other clients. So in other words, you know, to make a little money on, let's say, maybe they represent a coal company. Oh my God, the coal company's not going to make as much money next quarter, because it's going to take a few years to implement. Well, I'd be a little afraid then. How am I going to face them? You know, or maybe some other company. Who knows? I have no idea what's in people's minds when I talk with them. But I do have what's in mind with what I'm trying to do, and I'm not going to bend in that way. So, you know, if I have to take my grandkids fishing, go play with them, and keep this energy invention put away, I'll do it, because I'm not going to allow it to be exploited. It will not be exploited. I put 12 years of my life. It's more important than money to me. That's what people need to understand. Bringing the world together, helping humanity, creating a fair and better world, and a positive, good world for people is all my motivation. It's all of it. You know, I'm going to go here in a second. I want to thank everybody that's listened to this broadcast. I also want you to, as soon as you get off this broadcast, to tell your friends, write your congressman, write your leaders of your country. Let's come together. I'm here. I'm not going nowhere. I'm willing to go forward, as long as I'm working with leaders of goodwill around the world. You know, the only reason I'm taking this route is because it's real easy to patent something in this world. It's very difficult to protect it. I'm trying to protect it for the billions of people that this can assist. So I need people of goodwill and large companies and countries to join in, to help me protect it. I need China and India, their leaders, to wake up and say, man, we want clean energy. We want fresh water. We want to create a better world for our people. I need the poor countries of Africa to go, look, we need a chance like you have for the human experiment that we call life today. That we want to create a world for all our people. I want people from South America to feel the same way. I want the crazy people from Australia that I really like a lot to step up and go, hey, we're tired of selling our land to China, etc. We want to live in the outback ourselves. You know, Crocodile Dundee is in my heart. You know what I mean? So, you know, we want Australia to feel the same way. We want people of the Middle East to know that they're not going to be neglected, that oil is still going to be worth money. And we want people of Russia to quit interfering with the rest of the world and let me help them create a better world for themselves. They don't need to take over countries. I'll show Russia how to create such a unbelievable Russia that they'll be like, wow, this is awesome. And Canada, a great neighbor, the same way, and Mexico, and all the parts of the world. This is possible. I just need your help. I need assistance. I need to start gathering people of goodwill, leaders around the world. And the way to do it so far, in my mind, is to go from the bottom up. And so I need the people to speak up. Now, if you're unwilling to speak up for yourselves, I don't know how I can. I'm here. I broadcasted this. It comes from my heart. It comes from my life. It comes from my willingness to give up everything. This energy invention is so real. In one day, engineers will validate the validity of it, that it will operate as I say in the power projections. And from there, we can go forward. So I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to this. I hope it wasn't a waste of your time. Matter of fact, it better not have been. And I hope that you spend more time, because this is the most important topic, our most important thing that there is today in this world. This is that important, and you all know that. We're talking about our future. So thank you again for listening. I hope that I hope that you've enjoyed it, and please follow through. Thank you very much.